point, we have our main structure. So we're going to get into our next section, which is going to be building the drawers themselves. Yeah. So to do that, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to make some cubes. Yeah. And then we're going to turn one dresser drawer into basically the basis for all of your other dresser drawers. So I'm going to go into my create menu right now. I'm going to go into polygon primitives and I will go into the settings for cube. Yeah. So go to the square next to cube. Your settings have changed recently. In fact, when we're making the dresser, we changed our height division. So we switched that to 7, yeah. Everything else, I believe, was the default. So those are all set to 1. But we're going to revert that back, yeah. So your height divisions are going to go back to 1 division for the drawers. Everything else should also be set at once, yeah. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, once you have all of that, you can go ahead and click on create. Okay, and there is our cube that shows up over here. I'm going to move this over to the side a bit. Okay, now this eventually is going to be our jar, so I'm going to name this. This will be jar, and I'm going to declare where it's going to go. It's going to be on the bottom row, and it will be the first one, yeah, so in the first column. So I'm going to go and put R1, column 1, yeah, so R1, column 1. Okay, the other thing we're going to do here is we're going to move the pivot point. So this is going to be a little bit tricky, but this will help us like kind of lock things in, yeah. Right now, if you press the W key, you're going to notice that this cube has its manipulator, its move manipulator right in the center, okay. We're going to snap this, and this is what's called a rotation point. So like if you notice when you do a rotation, it rotates around that central axis, yeah, which is that middle point over there. Okay, now instead of having it in the center though, yeah, so you notice at our angles it is in the center, we're going to have it locked into the back left corner of this cube. Okay, to do that, I'm going to press 2 buttons. Yeah, first I'm going to go press D. Okay, that gets us into pivot point mode. Yeah, so pressing D will get it into pivot point mode. You'll totally be able to tell by the look of the manipulator switches. And you can kind of see the pivot point show up in the middle, sort of like a sun. Yeah. Okay, what we're then going to do is move it to this back corner. So we're going to hold down V. Okay, and when we do that, you're going to notice that your pivot point changes from a square to a circle. Yeah, so I'm holding down V over here. And then we're going to click directly on that middle portion, so that yellow circle, and drag it to the corner. Yeah. Okay, and then what you'll notice is when you're dragging this around and you're pressing down on V, pressing V, it makes it magnetic, so it likes to go to where edges meet, yeah, and these are called vertices. So we'll kind of drop that off at this vertex right here. Okay, as soon as we get it to that back corner, you should be all good. We're then going to jump back into our regular tool, which is pressing the Q key, yeah, and that'll get us back to where we usually are at, yeah, and we're no longer in pivot point mode. Okay, now as far as like the proportion goes, and making sure that we're putting it in the right place, we're then going to use our front view. Yeah, so if you can jump into your front view, okay, and let me actually switch to that. So we're going to jump to your front view. Okay, and let's get to that one. So I'm going to switch to my front view up here. Okay, I'm going to lock this into this corner, yeah. And by the way, if you can't change one of your views into the front view, or you can't switch to it using the spacebar, you can go up to panels, go into orthographic, and you can choose one of these options, yeah. So again, we're trying to get to the front view. We will also be going into our side view afterwards, yeah. Okay, so from here, what I'm going to do is add a wireframe. So I'm going to go to my shading menu and choose the wireframe unshaded option, yeah. So wireframe unshaded. Okay. Now this corner is going to go over here. Now if you remember when we're talking about our drawers are going to be in this bottom column over here. Yeah. So I'm going to snap this to this corner. Okay. We're still in our move tool. Okay. I'm going to snap it to this corner by holding down V. Okay. And dragging this right over here. Yeah. So this is going to be our starting point. Now it is really important to kind of lock down where this location or this corner is going to be. Yeah. So again, to move it, I'm pressing down V. Yeah, I'm in my move tool. I'm holding down V. I'm going to drag it until it gets to that corner. It is important to kind of lock it in over here, because now when we're scaling it, this corner stays and is basically magnetized over there. So it makes it a lot easier when you're shaping things. Okay, so for example, if I go into my scale tool now, which is your R, right? I can use this to scale up. So I'm going to scale it up this way. Okay, and then try to get it so that it hits the top of that row. Yeah, so we're going to go to about there. And then you notice again, the corner kind of stays still. I'm also going to drag it to the right. And the great part is it just stays right there. Yes, it stays right there. So you're going to drag it out all the way to over here. Okay. All right. And then there's basically our jar width. Yeah, so that should be our jar width and also our jar height. Okay, so good start. The other thing we're going to do is check in your side view. So I'm going to go into my orthographic view, choose side, okay, and then right over here, we're going to make sure that your jar can kind of show from the back. Yeah, so I'm going to X-ray this. So in this view, I'm going to choose shading and choose X-ray. We're also going to make sure, if it isn't already, if you can make sure shading wireframe unshaded is on. Yeah, so here's our two things again. You can make sure you have shading wireframe unshaded selected, and if you also have X-ray also selected. Okay, and then from here we're going to use our move tool. Yeah, so press W. Get this to the back corner of this dresser. Yeah, so there's basically the area that we're going to drop it off at. Okay, I'm going to scale this. Yeah, so pressing R and then dragging this forward. We're going to have the jar sticking out towards the front. Okay, so we're going to bring it out to about this proportion right here. Okay, and then again, we have it a little bit more forward just so that you can kind of see it even in the perspective view. Okay, so even in this perspective view, we can kind of see it like sticking out the front. Yeah. Okay, and then that's almost it. Now we have our jar over here. If we were to move this jar out, though, what you're probably going to notice is the proportion looks good. This isn't the greatest jar in the world though because we don't have an opening, so you don't have any place to put things in your jar. Okay, so super simple though. We're going to use our Extrude tool to set this up, kind of like how we did the top of the table, super easy. We're going to go into face mode first, select your top face, okay, and then we're going to go into our Extrude tool, so Command E, use your scale tool, yeah, so I'm going to then press R. Okay, I'm going to scale this left to right, oh sorry, right to left, and get like a certain width to it for the borders. I'm going to do the same thing going the other way. So this is going to kind of look like a picture frame going this way. And try to match it up, yeah. So try to keep it about the same proportion all the way around. Okay, and this is going to be the borders, yeah, of the jar. I'm also going to extrude one more time, so Command E, and then using the move tool, so that's your W, and bring this down and kind of get the depth of the jar. Yeah. Of course, you don't want to go too far. Once you see the black, you're going to know that, okay, you've gone past the bottom of the jar. Yeah. So just be careful. Like, you don't want to go too far down. Yeah. But also, you don't want to make it too shallow. Okay. That's about it. So that's going to be your dresser jar. Okay. Again, jar row 1, C1. Yeah, we can kind of use it for that. The cool thing now is we have a jar that we can use for all of the other jars in your scene. Okay, so I'm going to jump back to now my front view. Okay, and making sure that's in wireframe unshaded. Yeah, so shading wireframe unshaded. Okay, so here's my first jar. I'm going to use this to create my other jars, and I think in total that's going to be 6 jars. Yeah, so we're going to have 6 jars. I'm going to duplicate this jar over here. So duplicate it, bring it over to the side. Okay, and then here's my second one. Looks like I almost had it perfect, but it's a little bit wide, so I'm going to kind of scale this to the left a bit, just a little bit. Okay, and this one I'm also going to rename, yeah, so we're going to take a look at, we'll check out the name of it, but actually the name is good, yeah, this is still row 1, and this is column 2, perfect, yeah. Okay, now the good thing is, like, once you have these two lined up, yeah, so once you have these two lined up, you can then kind of select these two, duplicate it. Yes, I'm going to do a Command D to duplicate these and drop these off for the second row, yeah, or the middle row. Okay, one thing you're going to notice with this is that it may end, both of these jars may end up being a little bit short or a little bit tall. Yeah, so depending on your layout. Looks like for mine, it ended up being a little bit too tall. So I'm going to select both of them using the scale tool, yeah, so R, and then just bring this down so that it matches with that alignment. Yeah, so we're going to bring that down to over here. Okay, after you've adjusted those, please make sure you do go in here and rename it. Yeah, so now we've moved on. We're no longer in row 1. Now we're in row 2. And then I just realized we're naming this upside down a bit. Yeah, so I'm actually going to change the other row. But this should be row 2, column 1. And then this jar should be row 2, column 2. Okay, and I realized like these ones, this is actually not would not be row one. Yeah, this should because this is at the bottom. These would actually be row three, column one, and row three, column two. Okay, so sorry about that. All right, and then once you got these two all set, and then we have like four drawers left. Oh, sorry, we have four drawers down, and then we only have like three more drawers to do. Yeah, so if you remember our original drawing, or sorry, our original guide, we had a small drawer, mid-sized drawer, small drawer. Yeah, so that's how that portion kind of stacks up. So I'm gonna take this one right over here. Again, duplicate it, bring this up so that this is on the top row. So we go drop that off so it's on the top row. Again, just like before, we are going to scale it so that it is the height that matches up. So it looks like I got to kind of bring this shorter to about here. The other thing I'm going to do is scale it to the left. Yeah, and this is where that drawer kind of ends off at. So then try and drop it off right over here. So maybe about there. This should work pretty well. Maybe I'll go a little bit to the left, but yeah, that should work. Okay, and then this is going to be my next jar. This one is going to be jar row 1, and this is C1. Okay, and then hit return on top down. I'm going to duplicate it, bring this over, okay, and then bring it over to over here. Now I'm making my middle row, so I'm going to go to over here, and then scale it. Okay, and then I'm going to scale this all the way to the right. Okay, and then bring this over. Okay, so this is R1 C2. And I'm going to do one more. Yeah, so bring this one over again, bring this to that, and then this one we're going to kind of scale this over to the left. Yeah, so we'll shrink that in. Okay, and then that should give us a total of our 7 drawers. Yeah, so we got our 7 drawers on here. Yeah, so you can check your perspective view. Okay, now it's going to be kind of interesting because there are other drawers that are kind of sticking out over here. We can select all of them, move them inwards. Okay, and then we'll drag those into over here and have them sticky in just a little bit out. Yeah, so it's kind of obvious that the jars are separate from the body. Yeah. All right. Okay, so we're almost there. Okay, last thing we're gonna put in here are our handles. Yeah, so if we take a look at your guide handles, I think one of the things that pops out about it is that they're spherical. They kind of have a spherical look to it. So here's how we're going to set those up. And so I'm going to go into the sphere. Okay, and I'm going to kind of drop this off on the side. Okay, now spheres are interesting because although they look perfectly rounded from all angles, they kind of work like the Earth, where we have 2 poles. Yeah, you have your North Pole, and we got our South Pole. Yeah, so we got both of those going on at one time. Okay, I'm going to rename this one. So this is we call this jar handle. Yeah, so jar handle. Okay, and then we're going to set up our handles over here. This is a little bit rounded, so I'm actually going to go into my scale tool. Yeah, so press R. I scale this down so it's nice and like getting flatter. Okay. The other thing we're going to do is flatten the bottom portion. So I am going to go into my front view. Okay, and let's zoom in on that. We're going to flatten this bottom area. So basically, I'm going to go into vertex mode. And so this is a new mode for us. Vertices are basically the vertices that are the purple dots. Yeah, this is where your edges match up at. Okay, I'm going to select all the vertices almost to the middle. I'll stop short a little bit, but I'm going to catch all these vertices by doing a click drag. Okay, and then using the scale tool, I'm then going to scale this flat. So I'm going to scale it flat. And this will kind of feel more handle-like. You can then go into your move tool and kind of drag this up over here. Alright, so that should be pretty good. Okay, now the only thing we got to make is the neck portion. Yeah, so I'm going to go back to my perspective view on here. And we're going to select all the faces that are going to make up the handle. Yeah. So this is going to be just like where the neck kind of starts off at. I'm going to go inside, okay, and then select over here. Okay, and then I'm going to select all the faces, and I'm almost there. So if you notice, I'm inside of the model. Yeah, so it's easier to select if I do that. Then if I hold down the Shift key, I can actually double click and grab additional rows. Yeah, so I'm going to catch this one. I'll catch the one right on the outside. Yeah, so hold down the Shift key, and then again double click on the second of that row, and that'll give me that full round over there. Okay, and then we can just do one extrude and bring this portion out. Okay, there's our handle. Okay, and then we can use these and reuse these over and over for the jar. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna turn this one. Yeah, so I'm gonna rotate it. So that's your E. Yeah, and if you can check your channel box, if you can make your rotate X at 90 degrees. Yeah, so we're switching to 90. Okay, and then pretty much you can use this to just plug into your jar. Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of drop this off right over here. Let's see. Yeah, right about there. Okay, and then the proportion is a little bit on the wider side, so I'm actually going to kind of go here. And see, even in my watermark shaded, I'm just going to shrink these down just a bit. Yeah, so I think this is more the proportion that we're going with. Okay, and then we go to over here, and then drop it off over here. All right, so there's your jar handles. Pretty much to finish this off, yeah, you folks are going to then make your additional jar handles. Try to get your placement as nice as you can get it. Okay, and as consistent. I'm going to, once you get these rows, again, duplicating, it's going to be pretty simple. And again, we'll try to keep these jars looking almost exactly the same. And then when we get to this top row one, we're just going to center these. Yeah, so we got one over there. And I think there's two over here. So we can kind of bring that up to here. Okay, so that one's not bad. Okay, and you can move that around if you want. And then here's our last one. So we're going to duplicate and drop that off over here. All right, and that's about it for the dresser. Last thing I'm going to ask you to do here is if you can make sure that you use your materials and color your dresser. Okay, once you got those colored, you can go ahead and hand that into the classroom.